Amanda Anisimova wins Wimbledon, I'll go blonde.
Hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, live from Wimbledon, here to preview the women's singles final between Amanda Anisimova and Iga Swiatek. You find us here not in our usual position because, well, frankly, we had to be in the shade because it is hotter than the sun in our usual position today, which really is in the full sun and is impossible to sit in. So you find us here with myself, Catherine Whitaker, Matt Roberts, David Law, and we are joined by the Athletics' Matt Futterman as well. We just thought we needed a backup Matt.
It was a good call. Yeah, I just about made it. Whether it was pre-match nerves, who knows, but I'm here. Post-puke Matt.
So, suddenly Matt's a big fan of the 4 p.m. final start time.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I've always been on board.
Other Matt, very great to have you.
I'm glad to if this man should fall, I am here to pick up the standard.
Let's talk about this final, shall we? I'm going to start with the percentage game, just as a scene setter, okay? Matt, are you familiar with the game? Because I think we all know Iga Swiatek is the favourite today, right? So saying who we think is going to win, I think if we're all being rational analysts, we're probably all going to say Iga Swiatek. So let's go into percentages. David, you're up first.
I'm going to go 60-40 in the favour of Swiatek. I do think Anisimova has a real chance. I think she has the game kind of no matter what Swiatek does to actually, like, even if Swiatek comes out feeling good, I think Anisimova is good enough and different enough to hurt her. But she'd have to play seriously well. She mustn't freeze. She must connect on those forehands and backhands. She's got weapons both sides. She's got to serve well. If she can serve well and keep at worst keep the score close, then I think she can actually win this title, because I think if she starts to believe and find her form, I think she's good enough that she can actually knock Swiatek off the court like other big hitters have. But I think more likely is that she finds it a little bit more difficult to play her natural game, partly because of the occasion, mainly because of Swiatek's angles and being moved about, and I think that she perhaps will come unstuck.
That's more chance than the odds makers are giving her.
Really?
By the way, I don't quite understand betting odds, but I think Anisimova is 12-5.
Okay.
Which is longer than 60-40. Is that correct, or have I totally misunderstood?
It's about the same.
Right. Okay.
It's very similar.
So where do you stand on percentages, Matt?
1 and 3, so 33%.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, 2 weeks ago, when Amanda Anisimova signed for a 1 and 3 shot at winning a final against Iga Swiatek, I mean, sure, I think she would have, and I think 1 and 3 is actually a pretty good. It's pretty high, you know, if you think about it. But you know, I come back to the fact that Iga Swiatek has never lost a Grand Slam final, and Amanda Anisimova has never played in a Grand Slam final.
That's a big thing.
So, like, right now, it's, you know, about an hour before, and I think Iga Swiatek is going through the routine that she goes through before Grand Slam finals, and Amanda Anisimova, if she hasn't freaked out yet today, might be freaking out a bit right now, and like, she can come down from that freak out, but she's never done it before, and you know, she's got to manage that. So 1 and 3.
Matt, you're up.
Well, 33% is what I saw the official Wimbledon account, which I think does the percentage game based on IBM. They're big on the percentage game, and another blow for me.
It's very CIA.
Right.
That's what you know. Everything is probabilities.
Right.
These days. Yeah.
And look, that does feel about right. I think we so often talk about these big hitters as players that can trouble Iga Swiatek. I must say, I think Iga Swiatek has generally got better at playing them over the last couple of years. I think, the way she's giving herself a little bit more time on the return, The way she, her movement has improved on the grass. I think she's improved as a player to be able to handle the sort of game style that Anisimova has. But I do think, 1 in every 3 times, could Amanda Anisimova just tee off with those sweet strikes and not even Iga Swiatek with the improvements she's made be able to handle it? Yes, I do. The question is this going to be one of those 3 times? I think it might. I think it might.
Still got a feeling then?
Still got a feeling. I'm not going to give up on my 6-year-long feeling on the day of the Wimbledon final.
Matt's been listening to Jersey Girl this morning.
Yep. I did it before the semi-final. The Bruce version, not the Tom Waits version.
No,
Apologies to Tom.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda doesn't know either version, for sure.
No. And she was quickly out of Freehold, New Jersey. I don't know if she would really consider herself a Jersey girl. She's more of a Florida girl. But
Bruce hasn't written any songs about that.
No, and she was born in Freehold, New Jersey.
Absolutely. Lots of elements that you touched upon there are elements that we're getting questions about, and do pop your questions in the live chat if you have one. The first one I wanted to pick up on was what you talked about, Matt, and this was a question from Hannah and lots of other people in the chat. This later start time of 4 p.m, does that exacerbate or highlight the experience the golfing experience here? Does that make it harder for Anisimova, who's never been in this situation before? It's longer to stew over the nerves and to get anxious and to overthink. Would she have preferred a 2 p.m. start time today?
I don't think so, only because the sun will be 2 hours lower in the sky.
But she's a Florida girl.
I know, but it's really hot, right? And
that's very validating for Brits to hear.
That I finally on day
Right.
13, I am finally admitting that it's hot.
Yes,
that it's
thank
hot
you.
this year.
I appreciate that.
No, the sun is definitely it is hot in the sun today, and I don't know. I mean, does it make that big a difference? 2 hours in the afternoon. Give her a little extra time to sleep. Probably a little less rushed, and I think all of those things are probably okay.
I know that after her semi-final, Swiatek said, she loves it hot here, and that's the case, isn't it? When you put a lot of revs on the ball, like she does, it really has an impact. Her shots under the sun here. It was obviously really hot when Anisimova beat Sabalenka as well, and I noticed the early games there, the ball was flying. It really was a lot. Both of them were missing long a little bit in those early stages, but actually, I don't know. I think there's something about it. If it is flying, if Anisimova can control her nerves and play well, that might be good for her as well. To be able to rush Swiatek as much as she possibly can. She's going to want speed on those shots, and if she's got a little bit of help from the weather, then that could do it.
Well, you've kind of answered 2 questions in one there, both of you, because a lot of people asking, Michael in particular, who does the heat favour? Does it favour one player more?
I do think it favours Anisimova, partly because she is more used to it. It's second nature to her. I don't think it bothers her. But actually thinking back to yesterday and the men's semi-finals and the way it was like watching 90s tennis, the way the serve was dominating. Nobody was getting them back. And if you hit a clean ball in a corner, it's just not coming back. And the flat hitter is Anisimova. And so if she connects and if she serves well, she's going to get help from these conditions. It's going to fly. And I do think that might help her.
I agree with you. I just think it'll help her as much at 4:15 as it would at 2:15, and I just think her big enemy today, in addition to Iga Swiatek, is the freak out, and we've all sort of been there, and the heat just sort of exacerbates everything you're feeling. And if you're on center court,
big nod from Matt there.
As I reach for another jelly.
I just imagine if you're on center court and things start going a little bit sideways and the sun is beating down on you, it's all of a sudden this is getting out of control. And just if it's a degree or two cooler, maybe should be able to bring it back.
I know David is really worried about the freak out
Well, and
possibility.
I know Charlie wrote in The Athletic overnight about the lack of 5-set matches again and the lack of the stage, and it just always bothers me that Anisimova, a first-time finalist, is just not going to have this time to play her way in. And she, in a best-of-5 set match like Carlos Alcaraz found 2 years ago, you can go 5-1 down first set and still win the thing. And of course you can do that in best of 3, and Pavlyuchenkova nearly did it against Anisimova, but it's harder. And I think that's a real shame. I think that against Swiatek that is heightened, isn't it, Matt? Because she is the best of the lot when she gets a lead. I mean, it could be a 50-minute match today.
Yeah, it could be downhill running. There's no question about that. At the same time, like, I would really not want these players to have to go 5 sets in this heat today. Like, I don't think that's great for sport. I don't think that's great for entertainment.
Don't you want to see 5 sets? Don't you want to see 5 sets tomorrow?
I don't know. I mean, depends how quickly those 5 sets are going. I don't want to watch anything for 5 hours. I have to
It's an interesting point. Jessica Pegula all the players were being asked about the men's French Open final, and Jessica Pegula said in her pre-tournament press conference, I watched some of that final, but 5 hours is too long for me.
And I think the other point on the best of 3 versus best of 5 that's been made is, like, a lot of the top players are like, well, it would be better for me if it was best of 5, because over that longer period, it feels like maybe the best player is going to win out. And for Anisimova, I absolutely take the point about the freak out, and it could be a short final if she doesn't show up. But actually, like, going into it, she'd much rather have to win 2 sets against Iga Swiatek than 3 sets, I think. And with her game and the sort of high wire act that she's going to have to play, I think keeping it up for 2 sets feels more doable than trying to keep it up for 3.
Point.
So it's sort of balanced out in that respect as well. David mentioned the serves earlier. I think that's going to be an absolutely key area. If you look through all of their, like, underlying numbers for the week, Swiatek's ahead in kind of everything. She's had the easier run here. She's had the more dominant route to the final. The one area where they're pretty much even is second serve points won, and they're both down in the low 50s there, which shows that I think both of them have been a little bit attackable off that shot, and Swiatek's played a series of big hitters here, Collins, Towson, players who really try and take the time and ball away from her. I think Anisimova can do that even better than them, and if Swiatek's first serve percentage isn't high today, I think that presents a chance for Anisimova to be so dangerous on return. The problem is Anisimova's own second serve has been a bit vulnerable at times as well, and she's going to have to, I think, serve better than she has done, even against Sabalenka maybe, because Sabalenka's returns this tournament were not good. She was way off. I don't think Swiatek's going to be like that. So I just see that as a massive area of this match. Who can keep their first serve percentage high, and who can take advantage of the other's second serve, because there's both a bit of a weakness for them.
Lots of you have touched upon Iga Swiatek's finals record. Her Grand Slam finals record obviously is impervious. She's never lost one, but she's only, prior to Berlin a couple of weeks ago, she hadn't reached a final for 13 months, and then the most recent final that she has reached, she lost. Like, yes, on one hand she had this record, she has this incredible record, which I'm sure will help her today, but on the other hand, how relevant actually is it today? Could there be any touch of doubt from the fact that she hasn't been in this situation recently, and the most recent experience that she was in this situation, she lost in straight sets to Jessica Pegula?
I definitely think she's more vulnerable generally now than at any other year in the 3 or 4 years that she's been on top, in as much as all of these matches that she's lost to Pegula, and then the losses she took on clay against Coco Gauff and things like that, I never really thought I'd see that. I never thought I'd see it at all. But I still think a Grand Slam final, until I see other evidence of her not performing in Grand Slam finals, I feel like it's different. I was listening to Laura Robson earlier on BBC Radio, and Laura works behind the scenes here as a player liaison, and she said that in all the years that she's seen Iga Swiatek around, she hasn't seen her this kind of laid back and chatty with people and members of staff, and she feels like there's been a real shift in her body language here, which maybe is benefiting her. But I do have question marks in my mind, because I thought she'd win that final against Pegula, for instance, when she'd got to the final, because I always think she wins the finals, but it's not been the case more recently. So I think it's a factor. I definitely believe that it's one of the reasons why I'm picking her to win. But I also think sometimes you can get a first-time finalist who just goes for it and starts connecting, and Anisimova's got the weapons to do that.
We've got Charlie in the chat pointing out potential parallels to the 2004 final. Sharapova playing her first Grand Slam final beat Serena Williams, she had 6 Grand Slam titles under her belt at the time.
It's a good one.
And was the defending champion.
Maybe.
It's not a question, but it's a thing.
Getting back to what David said and what we were talking about earlier, we talked about the 2 records of Anisimova never playing in a Grand Slam final and Swiatek being undefeated in Grand Slam finals. The third beat in that thought is that neither of them has ever played a Wimbledon final. And I would go back to what Carlos Alcaraz said after his first match, which is just that Wimbledon is different. And I don't know from personal experience whether it is, but the players experience it that way. So I think that's the X factor. We know that there's the 2 other factors of experience, but then there's that third one where they're even, because no one's ever walked onto center court on this Saturday before.
We had a question from Arvind, and actually it brings me on to the general area of coaches and teams. Matt, I loved your piece about Shadi Soleimani. That's her name?
Shadi.
Yes. Shadi. Oh, I kind of wanted it to be Shady. But
Slim Shady.
Shadi's good too. Who's been on board with Amanda Anisimova since March?
April.
So actually a relatively short, incredible change in that short period of time, and it makes you wonder how many more gains there are to make for Amanda Anisimova on the physical side of things, given how new that relationship is. This is her she's a physical trainer, isn't she? But you described in your piece, a masseuse, sleep expert, nutritionist and physio. Is she available to work with me on the side?
Sleep expert, I could do with that.
She sounds fantastic.
And I think the other thing she is, which is probably the far more important thing than any of those things, is she's constant female companionship for her on the road. And she said to me at one point, she's like, I just get the feeling she's enjoying the traveling more now, because she's like, there's just been a lot of men around her, and now she can talk to me. And I think that's been a revelation for her. And note to the rest of the women's tour, this is a valuable thing. Marta Kostyuk has talked about it. Iga Swiatek has it.
Mira
Andreeva has it. It's important. And I would also, and Coco has it. The whole reason that Coco's mother is with her all the time is because she's like, I needed some estrogen around me. And there's just guys around all the time, and I just needed someone that I could be a girl with, and now a woman with.
And am I right in saying that Shadi, she was working with Zheng Qinwen previously, right? So she has some big match experience, right? She's been there on a Grand Slam final day, Olympic gold medal match. I think she was in that team then as well. So, I think she's an important person, as Matt's written about in the Anisimova team for lots of reasons.
And I do think Anisimova is just sort of scratching the surface of where she can get, because we've talked about before, her, if tennis was a contest of standing still and hitting the ball, she'd be probably the world number 1. But it's not. Usually you have to move and then hit the ball, and the more she can move, and the healthier she is, the more she can move, then I really think the sky's the limit.
And obviously she's got Hendrik Vlieshauers and Rob Bradsman as the rest of her team. Not necessarily as well known as Wim Fissette that we have on Iga Swiatek's side of things, but they clearly deserve a lot of credit, don't they, those two?
Yeah, and look, I think Amanda Anisimova's had a lot more high-profile coaches in the past, hasn't she? She's had moments with Darren Cahill, with Carlos Rodriguez, with Nick Saviano, I think, as well. You know, like she's been a lot of input from various coaches over her career, but she seems pretty settled now with Hendrik, or Rick, I think, as she calls him, Rick Vlieshauers. And you know, when I spoke to her in Paris, she really was pointing out areas that they're very keen to work on. Like, I think Anisimova knows she's one of the best ball strikers in the world. Like, she knows that, but she knows that the movement needed an uplift, the serve needed an uplift, and these have been big areas that they've been working on, and we're seeing the improvements, and that sort of joining up of having a team that she's comfortable being on the road with and enjoying tour life, as well as people who can make meaningful improvements to her game, and those two things go hand in hand. And you know, she's going to be a top 10 player for the first time, whatever happens after today's final. And I think, you know, this is, I don't know, it's when someone reaches their first Grand Slam final, you can kind of look at it as the start or maybe like the high point of their career. And I do think for Anisimova, with the team she's got in place now, I do feel like this can be the start of you know, competing at this end of majors more often.
So does everybody feel confident that this is the start of something for Anisimova? Not necessarily, you know, being an Arena Sabalenka and sort of dominating in any way or regularly reaching Grand Slam finals, but this not being the first and last.
Yeah, I feel fully confident with that. I mean,
she's going to reach more.
I would think so. I mean, she's 23 years old. She's had the worst thing that could pretty much happen to a child, you know, losing a parent. She sort of tried to work through that. You know, when I say work through that, she tried to keep working instead of grieving, but sort of like fight through that. Finally, she realized like that wasn't going to work. She took some time away. She's ready to play tennis. She seems ready to be a professional tennis player, and maybe for the first time in her life as a grown woman. And like, if that's true and she's fully into it and she can stay healthy, we've never really seen like fully healthy, mature Amanda Anisimova play a full season and like build the reps. And so I just don't have any other reason to believe why, if she stays on that track, she can't keep coming back to the business end of these tournaments.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think there are parallels to draw with Ash Barty, that she took time away and figured out who she was and how to handle the tour life. And what Anisimova has is the ability to play on every surface. There's no reason why she couldn't go to the US Open or the Australian Open and be in exactly the same position that we're in today. Her game stacks up and hurts everybody if it's working well. And the fact that she's putting this team together that seems sensible. You know, the people around her, like, even their body language seems good, but the fact that she's hired this physical trainer and that it is a woman and that she seems happier on the road, and then you put that into somebody with these natural strokes. I mean, she could be part of that pack with Sabalenka right at the top. I see no reason why not.
What about Wim Fissette and that element for Iga Swiatek? He's an interesting one, isn't he? Because there have been moments in this season when we've been waiting for the news that Wim Fissette would get the sack, and now it feels like one of the safest jobs in the sport, doesn't it? And he could be a real weapon for her today, having coached Wimbledon champions in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought that Swiatek's struggles this season were because of Wim Fissette, but you know, so often the buck kind of does stop with with the coach, but I liked what it seems from the outside like he's been trying to do with Iga Swiatek. You know, like she got to world number one. She became a dominant world number one, kind of stripping back some of the variety of her game and being hyper-aggressive, and it worked. It really did work. But when it stopped working, it felt like she had less to fall back on. But he's brought some of that back in, and we saw it in Australia. I go back to it. She played a great Australian Open, Iga Swiatek. It was that blend of aggression and bit of variety, giving herself more time. It was a really nice game style she had. She lost her way in big matches over the spring and the clay court period, but she was still regularly getting to the latter stages of tournaments, and you know, the game would look good and then it wouldn't suddenly. And here at Wimbledon, it's looked good, and the question is it going to keep looking good today, or is that sudden thing going to happen again where she kind of stressed out in a big match? I don't know. I have more confidence in this Swiatek at the moment. I also think that like Wimbledon in a way has been like this amazing surprise for Iga Swiatek. I think like when she does well on the clay, it's almost like she's holding her ground. Like everyone expects that of her. It's almost like par for her to do well on the clay. This grass court season, she's earned more points on the grass this year than she did on the clay. Like, and it's been this tremendous bonus. She looks a bit freer than we've seen, and it's just all come together. And I think, yeah, absolutely, win for set with some of the changes that he's tried to implement have definitely helped her on the grass this season.
You did a piece on this, Matt, about how this incorporating variety back into her game is both a big step back and a big step forward for Iga Swiatek, because that's how she used to play back at the start until she developed this incredible hard-hitting game. And it's almost like being on grass and the time that takes away from you has helped her really embrace that regression or progression, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, I sort of see it as like in the past on grass, she was trying to like fit a square peg into a round hole, and you know, she was trying to like basically just do that tennis player thing of like be myself, play my game and stuff, and you know, just hit hard, find the ball when it's in my strike zone, and really, you know, crush it off the court. And there's just like too many bad bounces on the grass, and the ball staying too low. And you know what she said the other day about not having time to think, and also like one of the reasons I love tennis on grass is it's kind of like playground tennis, in the same way that like playground basketball, like street basketball, and it's just sort of like there's a lot of improvisation that seems to happen, and you know, she's such a good athlete. You know, we talk so much about like her technique and her strategy and what she does, but you know, like if we all agree that Coco is the best athlete on the tour, I think most people say that, and you ask Coco who the other good athletes on the tour are, at the top of her list is Iga. And you know, I just think, as Mary Carrillo says, like great athletes win on the grass because that's what it requires. It requires like great athleticism and quick hands and all of those things. And I think the more she kind of leans into that and just sort of feels her way through and improvises and thinks a little less.
She gave you that great answer in her last press conference, didn't she, about the thing that she's really loved about grass this time around is how she's had less time to think. It's taken away her thinking time, and she's been able to play on instinct, which was such a revealing answer from her.
Yeah, it's not what I expected her to say.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to say something about the movement. I thought she was going to say something about like how the grass felt under her feet, because it does look like she's just much more balanced than she was in
It was a
past years.
really revealing answer. I loved it.
Yeah.
And David, the Iga Swiatek doesn't want this to be a hitting contest today, right? Like that variety could be critical.
Yeah, she needs to make it a movement contest, and she's got the ability to do it. I think the piece that you wrote resonated with me because of the number of times I've seen her lose here to Elisa Cornet and Yulia Putintseva, where she has tried to out-hit them, and kind of just got drawn into that and kind of frustrated, and yeah, she needs to be getting Anisimova. It's side-to-side movement really, because she doesn't really play drop shots. That's not her game. I mean, you can imagine what the players that have good drop shots could maybe be effective against Anisimova. And what Swiatek can do is she drags you out wide because she can bounce it short with the loop, the shape of her shots, and then they jump off the surface and go diagonally into the tram lines, and the next thing you know, you've got to be cutting the ball off, and she's brilliant at then redirecting, getting around the ball. Her footwork's so incredible that she's never out of position, Swiatek. The question is whether, if she puts it in the strike zone of Anisimova, she's in trouble, I think, if Anisimova's playing well, and she'll just be trying to keep it out of there. I think it's a fascinating final on paper because they're so different. And I hope they both come in good nick. I hope they both play well and have moments, and we have a close final, because it could be a great final.
Last question I wanted to make sure we get answered from the chat today. Actually, one for you, Matt. This one's from
There's a couple Matts.
Swarner. The healthy Matt. Stand down, unhealthy Matt.
Healthy for now. He has spent half an hour sitting next to me.
We're outside, though.
People bounce back, Matt.
We learned a lot the last few years about how bacteria travels outside.
Yes, you're on the bounce back, Matt. No, this Matt, American Matt. This is obviously 4 different American women now in the last 4 major finals. Bagula, Madison Keys, Coco Gauff and Amanda Anisimova now, and there are other American Grand Slam final contenders as well. Swarner asks, are we entering a new era of dominance at slams by US women? And if so, why and how?
So I don't know if it's necessarily like a new era of dominance. I've been thinking about this like this morning a lot, of like how to contextualize that question. And I think, as always, anytime you have success with female American athletes, you have to go back to Title IX, which was the civil rights law in 1972 that just guaranteed or tried to guarantee equal treatment of men and women in all facets of education, but it bled into sports. And it's funny, you think of like movies where the sort of typical American movie where the popular guy is the quarterback and the popular girl is the cheerleader. I have to say that like by the time I was going through high school in the 80s, like the popular mainstream girls were all playing sports. Like that was the cool thing to do. And yes, there were still popular girls who were cheerleaders, but like it's just sort of like it's been in the bloodstream for a really long time that like when you're an American girl and then becoming a woman, like you play sports. It's just it's a part of your life. And in talking to people from other countries, I just don't know it's as endemic. I know it's not as endemic in France, I can tell you that much. So I think that's part of it. I think that's the biggest part of it, where you have to start with. There's also like some technical things. Gabriel Echeverria, who is the Argentinian who has worked he's like a Higueras protege, brought him into the USTA. Did a lot of work with a lot of players for a lot of years. Last year, he spent a lot of time with Ben Shelton. One thing he said to me was, he said, it's so much easier to work with an American girl is because they play throwing sports from the time they can walk, which is true. Like from the time a girl in America is, like 3 years old, she's throwing baseballs and softballs and footballs in the backyard with her mother and father and brothers and sisters. And, it's that motion.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen so much in the rest of the world. He's like, so you're teaching a serve. He's like, so if you're teaching these American girls how to serve, like, they all sort of know instinctively what to do when the ball is up there with their arm. Their arm just sort of does it. So I think that's a big advantage at this point. And, you know, if you go back, and if you also, like, if sports are a reflection of society, if you think about, like, these four women who have made Grand Slams, like, you have Jessica Pegula, who comes from obviously a very high socioeconomic standard. Tennis has always been a wealthy sport in America. But then you have Madison Keys and Coco Gauff, who are, they are products of, discrimination laws going out the window, and they're being access for people who don't necessarily have the most amount of money to get into tennis that, I don't see in a lot of other countries. And then you have Anisimova, who, is the daughter of immigrant parents. And, her Russian parents came to America at a time when they could. She was born in America, so she became automatically an American citizen. And, it's just really interesting to me at this moment when there's this huge fight in America over birthright citizenship, which is in the Constitution. Like, Amanda Anisimova is the poster child for birthright citizenship. Like, born in Freehold, New Jersey, she's an American, and she's representing the country, and she had access to all of those other things. And, that's sort of like the long answer as to why we have these four women from pretty different backgrounds. And the through line, of course, is Florida, because they all spend a tremendous amount of time in Florida. And, Florida is just the hotbed of tennis. I mean, I know there's academies in Spain, there's academies in France. There's a lot of players in Florida who come out of there.
That was incredible context. I'm very glad I asked, and thank you, Swarna, for that question. That was incredible. Right, I want one word more from each of you. You know what the question is, David. Who's going to win?
Yeah, I'm afraid it would still have to be Swiatek. I say that not because I don't want Swiatek to win, but I fear that if she does win, it's likely to be quite easy and quite quick. And I hope that isn't the case. I'd much rather it was an absolute knockout, drag-out affair. And I also want to see Matt go blonde, so I wouldn't mind an Anisimova win. But I am going for Swiatek.
Matt?
Is it a math question or a feel question?
It's whatever you want it to be, Matt. I know how this Matt's going to answer it.
I've been wrong twice on this day at the previous Grand Slams, so I'm going to go with Swiatek and not be surprised if I'm wrong again.
Okay.
Sorry, that was many more words.
You're
than
in good
one.
company here. We've got one of these preview shows that we'd quite like to scrub from the internet. Okay, you're up.
Swiatek, no, Anisimova. Anisimova.
He's still doing jokes. What a hero. Folks, let's go and watch this final, shall we? Matt, thank you very much for your company on this preview show. Do check out Mac's work on The Athletic. There's some excellent context there, and I'm sure some excellent write-ups of today's final.
Let's hope so.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, folks. We'll be back at the end of the day's play after the trophy ceremonies are done to talk about the women's singles final and, of course, all the other finals that we've had today. My heart is still breaking a little bit for Yui Kamiji, who failed to get over the line and complete the career Golden Slam today. We'll talk about that and, of course, Matt's potential blonde ambition. It's all to come later on the Tennis Podcast. Thank you so much for watching our preview. Enjoy the final. We'll speak to you later.